My name is Nicole and I'm the Chief Development Officer here at MEG. And today we are going to try to answer the question, is telehealth here to stay? And I have a wonderful panel of guests today. I'm going to start by introducing them all. Marla Rainieri is the Chief Development Officer of BetterPT. We also have Mike Gorman, who is one of our senior coaches here at MEG and also the owner of iMove Telept. Then we have Joe McGilvery, who is the owner of Apex Physical Therapy down in Florida. And we have the man who needs no introduction, as we noticed last week, Ryan Gallagher, the founder of MEG Business Management. So I welcome
Nicole, I'll just say for this episode, I wore this hat that I am neutral on all events for today's show. So
I thought it said, please introduce me. No, okay. All right, good. So today we really want to dive into all things telehealth, and we brought in one of the top experts in terms of the platforms that are out there, who is going to help give us a little bit more mass on what telehealth actually is and what it looks like in real time. So with that said, I do want to cover very briefly before we hand it over to her, some of the things that we still have available. We still have our free exclusive look inside MEG Academy video series. I know a lot of you have been taking advantage of that, and that has been wonderful. I wanted to point out at the end of that exclusive look, there is the opportunity to have a free practice assessment. That would be the next step, where you would schedule time, one-on-one time with a coach, and we would go into the particulars of your clinic. And then we can do a more customized tour of MEG Academy at that time as well. I wanted to also make note of the podcast. This week, it was definitely in line with what we're talking about today. And Mike Gorman was also a guest on that podcast. So we have that link up as well. And then finally, I wanted to talk about the playbook that we've been talking about lately, the COVID-19 operational playbook. We have that fully put together. It's accessible on our website. And that is available to all of you as well. And finally, I just wanted to make sure that we had the BetterPT contact website up there for you to access that also. So to get things started, Marla, I would love for you to expand upon some of the services that you offer at BetterPT, if you will.
Great, thank you. So with BetterPT, our goal is to connect your world to care. We have created technology in a way so that you guys can have patients access your clinic and schedule appointments in your clinic via telehealth, via home care, if you're adding your model, as well, as easily and as efficiently as possible. So not only do we offer telehealth, but we have where you have online scheduling that is interoperable with your EMR, so it pulls available appointment times. And just like people do in every other industry, such as making their hair appointment or making their airline ticket, they can go on their mobile phone or on the computer, see what's available, click a button, put all their information in, send it over to you, and you guys can confirm it. You can see everything about the patient with their information, their insurance, and can save a lot of time at the front desk by getting that patient in quicker and faster. So, we want to make it easier for you guys, easier for the patients, and connect everybody with a tech.
Perfect. That's great. I appreciate that, Marla. Some of the questions that we get that have been coming in, people who are having difficulty building that caseload of telehealth, and people are unsure of how to communicate the value of telehealth. How can you address those, or how can your platform address some of those issues?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons you have difficulty with communicating is because you're disconnected from the patient right now. They're social distancing, they're home, right? So you need to be able to reach them, and that's going to be a digital front door. So that's got to be everywhere. It's got to be out there. It's got to be on your website, that you have a button strictly right to your telehealth. We offer telehealth, request an appointment now. It's got to be on your social media. Your Facebook, it shouldn't say send a message. You don't want a message, you want a patient. It should say book now, and that goes right directly to your telehealth platform scheduling. You want an email marketing campaign. You want to send it out to every patient who is your current patient. Say, hey, we care about you. We know you're home. We still want to progress your plan of care. We still want to get you better every day. Here you go. Here's telehealth for you and home. You want to send it out to every patient you had in the past, because these people, their work from home stations are horrendous. They're hurting, right? Like there's a lot of injuries out there. They just can't do anything. So you want to send that button out to everybody who you ever treated before. And in addition to all of that, you want to be on other platforms that showcase you. So BetterPT does have a patient-facing marketplace and a mobile app where people can come and search clinics doing telehealth and doing in-clinic appointments.
That's great. Can you help us to understand what that looks like in real time? Can you show us a little bit around what that might look like for either a patient experience or a therapist experience of how that looks?
Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And as you see here, this is our BetterPT platform where our patients can come and search for physical therapy clinics and also for telehealth clinics. And this is one way, really, we consider ourselves more technology. So this is also on your website where you can have buttons that say request video appointment. You can have buttons that say request appointment. And through this, patients can actually see. I live in Sparta, so of course it geolocated to there, but they can see that you're offering an appointment or a telehealth, right? And when they go through this process, super simple, they can say they want a initial evaluation or a follow-up. It's going to pull different times from your EMR. They can go ahead and see the clinic availability, or actually the patient or the physical therapist specifically, their availability, and enter in all their information like their insurance, their condition, the doctor that sent them, and go through and actually request an appointment. All right, you guys from your end, you got this request, and you can respond to the request easily and seamlessly. So for telehealth, right here, you can see everything about the patient. You can see their insurance card. You can verify benefits, and you can go ahead and confirm the appointment by just putting the email of the therapist that's going to see this patient, and right away it shoots out and schedules the telehealth visit for both parties. So it's really simple, whether if it's coming from your website or your Google My Business page or your Facebook, social media, or us, you're able to engage patients and give them a real call to action to get them right in.
Okay, perfect. So what are some of the things that you need to have in place prior to delivering telehealth?
So really what we recommend, you do have to have good internet. And we are fortunate that our platform also has a mobile app. So if the patient doesn't have good internet connectivity, they can actually use their Wi-Fi on our mobile app as well. But we do recommend having good internet, having a computer that has a camera or a phone with a camera. Really, our platform works on computer, iPad, or a phone, so you really can use any sort of way. But the main barrier is just having a quiet space to do your telehealth appointment. And I think people understand if there's kids in the background right now, but for the most part, as quiet as can be.
Perfect. And I know we had a lot of questions on, like, do I need a specific type of a consent form? Is there a special liability insurance that I have to cover? Are there any other requirements that one would need in order to deliver telehealth services?
Yes, so we recommend that you are signing a BAA with whatever platform you're using. You want to be as safe as possible. You want to know your information is being not shared with anyone. So make sure you sign that BAA with whatever platform you end up going with. Make sure it's HIPAA compliant. We understand that HIPAA laws have been, quote unquote, kind of waived right now, but you always should do what's best for the patient and be as secure as possible and have a HIPAA compliant platform. In addition to that, you want a telehealth consent to treat form. This is new for people. They do need to know what it comes along with telehealth. And in our platform, we actually automatically have that sent to the patient, and it's they have to sign off on it before their call, and I'll actually show that to you in a little bit. In addition to that, you want to know where your patient is going to be. So you actually want to know their physical address of the call, and also a emergency contact. Because if something happens to them during the telehealth call, you need to know to call EMS and where to send them, right? So understand, this is still, you have to have a plan and emergency preparedness. And those are some things that we highly recommend.
Excellent. I think that's very helpful. I appreciate that. I know I keep hearing this reoccurring theme. I treat the geriatric population, the elderly population that is not as technically savvy on the computer as maybe the younger generation. How does your platform accommodate this particular obstacle for some people?
It's a great question. And that is one of the biggest barriers we find with some other platforms, is that you can't make it difficult for those patients. They're already a little hesitant about this and technology, so you want it to be as easy as possible. You don't want them to have to download something. You don't want to have them create an account. You might lose that 30-minute appointment with them just trying to figure out how to get on. So you want it seamless, easy, usable in all different ways, like I said, phone, email, and also through the computer. So let me show you how BetterPT does this to make it so simple for your geriatric patient all the way down to your pediatric patients.
Perfect.
All right. So here you see in the BetterPT platform, I'm a physical therapist or front office staff scheduling a telehealth visit. And so what I do is I enter the date and time. So I'm going to say today, and for purposes of this call, I'm on the East Coast. I'm going to say at 4:45. I'm going to put the patient's name, their email address, their phone number. You do not have to do this, but the patient will receive a text message with the link prior to the call, as well as an email, so we do recommend it. And then the care provider. So I'm just going to do one of my other colleagues, but of course I could send it to any of you right now. And that means the front desk staff could be scheduling any therapist in the clinic, because they just put the therapist that's going to be seeing that patient. Then I go ahead and click schedule telehealth, and right away an email gets sent out to both parties. So myself as the patient, I get an email that says your appointment for Thursday, May 14th has been confirmed. I get this email directly when it's scheduled, an hour before my appointment, 15 minutes before my appointment, and then I get a text with the link 10 minutes before my appointment. So I am reminded, I have the links accessible everywhere. The email looks and feels like it's coming from your clinic with your name, your logo.
Sure. It
has the date and time of the appointment. It has the contact of the therapist in case anything happens and that you needed to reach out. It has a nice spot where you can add anything you want that's specific to your clinic. So maybe your intake forms, or a link to your payment, whatever you would like to add there. Here is your telehealth consent to treat form, which you send to us and we upload in your platform, so it goes out to every patient prior to your visit. And as you see, as a patient, all I have to do is click this button or the link on my phone. I don't download anything. I don't create an account. I click the button and I go right to my telehealth call.
Very good.
This is as easy as it gets. Now,
perfect.
I can test my connectivity. So if I want to know anything about my audio, my video, this will tell me if there's something that like you need to turn on your camera, and it'll actually walk you through what else, maybe anything that you need to do, or you can go right to your call. Here, I have to consent as the patient to your telehealth terms and conditions, and I go right into my call.
Perfect. That looks great. Can you share a little bit more of what that, like a typical consent form would include? Is it, very elaborate, or is it just a simple statement, I consent to, participate in telehealth? Can you elaborate a little bit more on what a typical consent form would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have we have a template one that we send out to clinics, and we let them, they can either update it and send it back to us, or completely give us their own. I have it on I probably have it right here on my dashboard. Let me stop sharing and I'll pull it up to show you. We work with, you guys might know him pretty well, Dan Seidler, who has been so helpful in helping clinics with reimbursement and getting the right codes and having the right information. And so he's actually shared his telehealth consent to treat form, and we do send that out to our clinics so they have a template to look at and build off of.
Perfect.
And my apologies, I'm just looking for that right now.
That's okay. If you don't find it right away, we can always revisit that later at a later time. Just not to like move on, but if that comes up, that's great, the consent form. But I do want to know what percentage of, and this kind of question goes out to everybody, not just Marla, I'm not just putting you on the spot, but what percentage of the services should be delivered via telehealth? What is your opinion on that? And what have you seen most of your clinics that you work with?
That's a great question. So I actually believe it is going to be changing during, we call it 3 phases. The first phase was this quarantine phase where honestly it was 100% of some people's visits, because they really either had to close down because they were in the middle of New York City, or they just wanted to be as safe as possible. And so you saw that was their way of still reaching their patients, 100% telehealth. Now, as we're starting to quote unquote rebuild and open up and we're getting patients in the clinic, we see it being really like 70% telehealth, and then the rest of the percent them coming in the clinic. And that's because you guys got to understand, you can fill your caseload, but it's going to be one-on-one, not a lot of people at the same time. You're going to need time to clean in between the patients. If you've got a small space, again, it's going to be, you're really going to have to keep these patients separate. So you want to build your caseload by having as many people come in as you can safely fit, but there might be 1 appointment in the clinic and 2 telehealths right now.
Sure.
And so you might see that rebuild, and also you're still going to want to do telehealth, the immunocompromised or the elderly who it's not safe to come in yet. And then as we finally get back to normalcy, whenever that is, I think telehealth is still going to be there. It's going to be a much smaller percentage, maybe 30, 20%, but I think you're still going to use it for those people who aren't comfortable to come back in yet, those people who cancel because they can't make it there, a ride canceled on them, or maybe a new mom who, she just can't get in with a 2-month-old, but she really needs therapy. And all different ways. And I think we're going to discuss more ways in a second.
Yes.
That's what I see. I see it changing and growing with you.
I appreciate that. We just have one question coming in before I want both you, Joe, and Brian to weigh in on this. Mike, I know you're 100% telehealth, but you to weigh in as well. But a quick question that we had come in, is the site available in Spanish?
So actually what you can do, you can have an interpreter join your telehealth call. So you can have a third party, and that doesn't have to be an interpreter. It could be a family member in another state, whatever. You can have that person jump on, and therefore your session can be a telehealth session with the interpreter right there for you.
Okay, gotcha. All right, Brian, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what percentage of your practice should be telehealth, not only for now, but also kind of thinking into the future.
Yeah, with your permission, I also want to cover just a few compliance things too, just for clarification. We have a nationally recognized compliance officer, Daniel Hirsch, and he works with us. And so he and I have been chatting about some of these points. So I agree with Marla completely. I believe that long-term, I think multiple pillars of stability are what's going to make a practice more secure and viable for the future. You'll hear in the business industry how many verticals, how many income verticals or production verticals do you have in your business, regardless of whether we're talking physical therapy or some other business. So I'm always a big believer of at least having 3 sources of income coming into your practice. And I believe telehealth is going to be one of those sources. I believe cash-based services should be one of those services. So if you're asking my opinion, it's a big country. It's different in every part of the country. The patient behavior and action and reaction is different in every part of the country. But I think 20% should be a good goal for telehealth services, 20% of your annual production, 20%, versus cash services, I think should you should try to achieve 20% of your annual collections. Those are two different things. So 20% of your collections through cash-based services, 20% of your production. I did want to that's just my thoughts on that, Nicole. I wanted to raise this compliance issue. Marla did make the comment that the OIG, well, she didn't go into depth enough, but I know where she was going. So I just want to clarify for all of our listeners. The OIG, as a governing body of HIPAA compliance, has relaxed and loosened its enforcement of the HIPAA rules and regulations. Yeah. By no means should anyone walk away from this call thinking that the HIPAA rules and regulations have been reduced, minimized, or flexible in any stretch. That is not the case. That is not what's been said. That is not what's happened. And that comes right from our nationally recognized consultant. The rules still apply as always, which supports why we have Marla here, why we work with Daniel Seidler, why we work with Mike Gorman, because they're all supporting and endorsing that you have the proper policies, the proper platform, the proper consent forms. You have to have the proper rules and regulations. This is not just because they said, oh, we're not going to bring you to jail and you can like act out and be the Wild West, doesn't mean that over time you're going to be okay with that. That is not the case. So I just wanted to clarify that one point. The OIG's relaxed its enforcement, but the rules themselves have not relaxed. Another point, Marla, if you could answer, a lot of people have professional liability insurance and all of a sudden they just flip the switch, they start doing telehealth, but I don't think they fully recognize that for the most part within your state, your professional liability insurance may or may not actually cover those services. I'm sure you know a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I actually just did a webinar on that last week with CMNF Group, and they talked about security and services, and a lot of people actually don't have that telehealth in the malpractice. So you do need to call your malpractice and make sure it's in there, or make sure it gets added in there, because we were all very reactive about telehealth. You know, we were like, oh no, we just did it, but we didn't think really. Yeah. And we got to be proactive, and we have to think about how this is going to be a long-term plan, and like you said, going through the correct channels and making sure you do have liability insurance coverage under telehealth.
Yeah, and if I could punt this next one over to Joe. Joe McGilvery is a special expert in the area here. He's been on TV several times, and Joe is in the hotbed of Florida. Joe, I'd like you to speak on, if you don't mind me targeting you out on this, speak on the over 65, the tremendous Medicare population that you have to contend with, and the special challenges you have there, but also equally the special successes that you have because of it. I really believe that there is quite a bit of both sides of that street going on. And before you answer, I will say this other Marla, because you're in New Jersey, because you're to the hotbed, you speak very carefully and you speak very precisely to the implications and the effects that many are being felt in that part of the country. I will say to the rest of our listeners, I mean, Nicole will tell you, we're talking to owners in Texas who are like, yeah, I'm down 11%. You know, my patients don't want to do telehealth at all. You know, it's Texas. They want to come in and they want hands-on therapy. I mean, we see offices that, as Marla is being very cautious and very sensitive to the life-changing implications that COVID-19 has had in her area of the country, I can literally tell you other areas of the country are like, don't know what you're talking about. I am back to business. We are treating patients, but I think that's what makes BetterPT even more important, because as you can see from their infrastructure and their digital technology, you could actually procure more people from within the four walls of your business by using technology to attract them in a safe, comfortable, confident manner by communicating with them digitally. So I wanted to just preface that, because I do think we get listeners from both parts of the country and they don't quite have the same reality and they can't even relate, but I want to try to mend that bridge. You got to be understanding. People are experiencing quite different, having quite different experiences, and that's why I wanted to kick it to Joe. Joe's down in Florida. Joe, what could you say? Yeah, take that. You're gonna have to share with us a little bit about how you're handling that.
Well, I'll go on your what you mentioned about our demographics. Yeah, and to be quite honest, our 65 and older population is probably the most that we see, and they dominate this. The first lady that we brought on first week was 83 years old, and she was tickled to death. She was like, this is actually amazing. I wish my family, up north could see me doing this. You know, it's great. And I have a couple, I was talking with Nicole earlier, I have some success stories that I'll share with you, and they're all over 65. And I mean, technology-wise, it's simple. I mean, we use the Zoom platform, and to be honest, the only reason why we even chose the Zoom platform was because we already used it in meetings, and a lot of our patients already used it with families. So we're like, okay, let's start here. At least we can get the ball rolling. And then that's why I like being on here, because we're actually searching for a platform, because we know this is going to continue, past, COVID, and we can already see it. I'm a big believer, like as far as Brian talks about having different buckets. This is an awesome bucket to have. It's not going to dominate our practice, but if we can get 15 to 20% is phenomenal. And we can easily see that being a vision. So yeah, as far as the demographics, yeah, we see it. I'm 100% confident that, that 65 and older is no problem with any of these platforms.
Yeah, and I think I'll just say, many people will be, boy, that must be a real struggle for you, Joe, down in, Florida with your population. But quite the opposite. They feel safer in their own home. They feel more secure in their own environment. They know their therapist. They're still being treated one-on-one by their therapist, and they have that undivided attention. So for those of you who may have that preconception, I can tell you that is not the experience we're hearing from our clients, because we have thousands of clients around the country, literally thousands. And this is what we're hearing. And I just wanted the audience to hear. It's actually quite the opposite. And a platform like BetterPT just, oh my gosh, you cannot make it simpler. Did you love that demo? You just click the button and you're connected. I saw that. I'm like, I wish Skype worked like that. I can't even figure out Google Hangout. It's so, if it's not Zoom, I'm not using it. I mean, it's funny.
Like, it's our therapist will actually say like ahead of time, hey, I'm running behind. Can you set me up on this? Because they know it's a little bit of setup to the Zoom platform, and that platform is just like, bam, we got it.
Easy.
Yeah.
And I was
just going to say too, we're going into stage 2, probably most likely on Monday. So we're really progressing well. Yeah. Our patients can be out in public now. Restaurants everything's open. They're on, percentages, but we still get scripts that they've gone to their doctor, but they don't want to come into the clinic. They still don't feel it. And we just right away, let's start telehealth. They're fine with it. And we know that we're going to convert them back, into the clinic once they feel safe. But going back on what Marla was saying too, there's a whole different population of people who normally could never come in. They don't have a car, or the ride's not there. They have, children. Or they're too busy. They just can't make it work with their schedule, or even traveling. I mean, we got people that, we look to be like one of the top clinics in our area, but our area is pretty big. So for them to drive 45, 50 minutes to us, they're like, hey, I'll start with you on maybe they come into clinic once a week. The other 2 visits are telehealth because of how, distance. So I think it's a lot of different, things we can do with this.
Good point.
I appreciate that, Joe. And I want to kick it back over to Marla, because she kind of opened my eyes to some different uses that you can implement with telehealth. And what I love about you is you are a PT as well. You're not just, somebody who is, in marketing or whatever. You're actually a PT, and know the inside scoop of what it takes to be a PT and how to better use it. So can you share with us, you had mentioned, in the athletic population and, even going on doctor visits, can you share a little bit more different uses that maybe are a little bit more out of the box thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, because I am a PT, the best part of our platform is I get to try everything first and make sure, that it's that the patients are loving it and it's working. And there's just so many uses for telehealth people don't think of. So one of the ways I was saying is it could be a really amazing way to connect with doctors. So you tell your patient, hey, when you go into that doctor follow-up visit, I'm going to make a telehealth visit with you, and I'm going to be there in that visit so I can actually tell the doctor how you're doing and make that connection and hear what the doctor has to say. So you actually can have a telehealth visit with them in the doctor office, and that doctor is going to remember you for sure. So that's one great way of doing it. Another is that you guys, telehealth actually, you can do better for some things than in home and than in clinic, and that is an assessment of their workstation. It is an assessment of their sleeping position and their pillow and what they're doing. Or that favorite chair they tell you, it just hurts when I get out of it. And you say, great, let's do a televisit. You show me. Or the mom saying, when I get my kid out of the crib and you're like, you know what, let's do that tonight. Get home, we'll do a telehealth and you show me and I'm going to direct you. So there's some ergonomic or even home safeties that you can do better. And like we said, going back to normalcy, you can incorporate into your treatment plans. Great, it's going to be a telehealth visit next week because this is what we're going to do. And so that right there is really beneficial. Another avenue is when those athletes say, oh, nothing hurts except when I go to gymnastics and I do my bar routine and this skill. And you're like, I don't know what that is, but let's have us do a telehealth visit. You show me, your coach will be right there, and we're going to do an actual session, and I'm going to help incorporate what we've been doing into therapy and make sure that turns into your form in the gym or your skill in tennis, right? So you're going to actually, again, be able to utilize it in real situations that you could have never done before and bring it to the next level with the patient. So those are all really unique out of the box ways. In addition to that, think of how many times, maybe you out in Florida that there was a hurricane and everybody canceled. Or us
hurricanes. There's hurricanes in Florida. We don't get hurricanes. But Joe, it's like invisible to us, right?
There's actually one happening right now. We just...
Well, I was thinking what Marla was saying, Nicole, when she was saying that, I was thinking, every time you complain about that hitch in your get along when you go out to the barn and you're handling the dairy cows, I'm like, this would be perfect for you out there in Wisconsin when you go over that West Gate and you have a hard time.
You know what? I think speaking of insurance, Brian needs to make sure he's got some good insurance. That's all I'm saying. But no, you know what? I want to say
it's all in
just
love.
for a second. I do golf assessments. And it's a great thing. A golfer can film themselves at the range. They can then email that to me, and then when we're doing our telehealth, we can bring that into play and we can assess it without me having to be there. So I think you're exactly right. There's so many uses of telehealth that it's unfortunate the pandemic is happening, but it has inspired us to finally get off our rear ends and use technology the way we should have been.
So, and Nicole, you said it to me yesterday about, I'm joking about Nicole's ranch and farm and cows, although I'm not so sure about the cows, not so sure. But we just had a client reach into us from Iowa, and she's like, I want to reach further out into the community and help more people in the community. But she only had like 2,700 people within a 30-minute drive. It's so rural. Yeah. And now I'm like, wow, think of how many more people she could touch without having to worry about them coming in. It didn't even dawn on me until I was just joking with you about your ranch.
I get it. No, absolutely. I have a good question that just came in from Debbie. And she mentioned, as the country opens up, several of my clients will be returning to their extensive travel schedules. How do you manage appointments when patients are out of town but still want to be seen? So I think that's a great question, because we do have to be cautious. If you're treating in one place and the patient is in perhaps another state, how does that work with telehealth?
So that's a great question. So due to your Practice Act, you do have to be treating within the state that you practice in. So there's a couple things you can do. You can actually get licenses in other states. Florida is actually really easy to get a license right now. They've made it simple. So, and a lot of the other states are doing that for this pandemic. So now would be the time to get licensed in other states. And then you would be able to see them. But you do have to stick with your Practice Act and make sure, and that's also why we tell you to find out where your patient is during that visit, because they might not have told you they went out of town. You kind of need to know that, because if 5 years down the line, somehow you got sued for something, and they pull it up and they say, well, this patient wasn't even in your Practice Act. You got to be careful of that, right? So I think that there's a great use for it. Like, let's say us in New Jersey, we have a lot of people who go to Florida over the summer, the winter. And what a lot of people now are doing is they're getting licensed in another state, or people that go out to the Hamptons for the summer. So they don't go to their normal clinic, but now you could do telehealth with those. So you can say, great, I'll see you during the year. And when you go out to where you go, I'm licensed there. I can see you as well. Or me as the therapist, if I'm traveling, let's say I want to go work for a week from, anywhere, I can actually see all my patients in New York, or where I'm practiced, and I can go and stay somewhere and actually see patients. So that's another thing to think about as well, as long as they're within the state that you have a license of.
Perfect. And I want to direct this question to you, Mike, because we did have one of our clients who had asked, as a PT, how do I treat patients in other states via telehealth legally if I'm not part of a compact? And I think you kind of addressed that. But can you answer the other side of that, of how to become part of a compact and what that even means?
Right. So in order to be part of the compact, your state that you practice in or that you want to get licensed in has to be part of the compact. Brian and I were talking about this the other day, and there's approximately 28 to 30 states that are in the compact Not all of those states, as of early April when I was looking at all this, not all of those states you could do telehealth, and that's probably changed, but some of the states have done all the paperwork to get in the compact, but it hasn't been put in their practice act yet, or hasn't been put in by the Board of Healing Arts, or whoever in their state has to do it. So right now there's probably 25 states that are in the compact. A few more will be getting into it hopefully this year or next. But in order to practice in those states that are in the compact, you've got to be in a state that's in the compact. And then what you do is you apply for a compact privilege in the state. So I'm in Missouri.
Sure.
So I have a compact privilege in the state of Washington. So I don't have a license there, but you have a compact privilege, which allows you to treat patients in Washington.
Okay. So it's like a
even
reciprocity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. That makes sense. So the other question that I have is that kind of goes along with this is, how do you bill for those services? So let's say you're in Missouri, your client is in Washington. I know you do cash, but if we can have Allie chime in on that, if she would like to unmute, how do we go about billing for those services if you're not, dealing with the same in-state insurance?
Yeah, so you would definitely want to make sure that you can bill the insurances for the state you are in a compact with, if I'm saying that right. So you definitely want to verify that per insurance. It's going to vary greatly.
Yeah. I think she brings up a great point, because that's really, that's one reason why I decided to have a out-of-network cash-based practice, because if I'm going to be practicing telehealth in 18, 20, 25 states, it would be impossible, because every state, for example, in Missouri, Blue Cross Blue Shield in Kansas City is not the same as in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So it would just be, so you have to be very, very careful with that if you are. Yes. Hi, Brian.
Oh, he's waving at somebody.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know if he wanted to talk. But anyway, yeah. So you have to be very, very careful with that. And you just have to start making phone calls and see.
Okay, very good. I wanted to talk a little bit, I mean, we don't have to get too detailed on the price point, but the cost of delivering telehealth services. Can you touch a little bit on what, how to handle that question when people ask you what the cost of delivering telehealth services is?
Are you talking about me for the platform?
Yes,
Yep,
yes, exactly.
So actually what we did at BetterPT is we tried to make it really flexible and easy for you. And there are no setup fees and no subscription fees, and it's a per call model. So we did that because this month you might be doing a ton of telehealth, but maybe, like we said, next month maybe a little less, and then maybe eventually to that 20%. So it's going to change, and you don't necessarily want to be locked into every provider having a fee and a subscription and all that. So we do actually we are offering a discounted price for anyone doing this webinar. So please reach out to me and let me know that you listened to the webinar, and we will make sure to give you the discounted price. But it is a per call fee, and you can have unlimited time of call duration. You can have unlimited providers and unlimited clinics, and that's how we handle it.
Nicole, I just have some logistical questions that a lot of owners bring up to me.
Yep.
And I'll kick this over to Joe and Marla and Mike. And so any one of you guys want to chime in. A lot of owners say to me, well, how do you handle the co-pays? How do you handle collecting co-pays and co-insurance when you're doing telehealth? So that's question one. And question two, how do you best manage them on a home exercise program, a progressive home exercise program when you're doing telehealth? So whoever wants to start first.
I can go with the home exercise. So we have two different platforms. One, with COVID, we were fortunate to develop a full line of YouTube exercises that our therapists actually set up in video mode. So after the session's over, we can send them a link directly to it. So one, it's nice because we're getting a lot more subscribers to our YouTube channel, which is nice. But also, then they have access to our exercise, and we gear or specify where to go. And then the second thing, we'll provide a link to if it's like a HEP to go or whatnot. So we give them what we're doing during the session. After, we give them a follow-up link that they have to click on. It gives them that, and then we kind of have the buy-in, like we're going to show you some things, but then next time we're going to upload this more, and then the following time more. So it's always what next. We're not giving them the full amount. We're giving them a little teaser each time, so we're building up, their buy-in process.
That's great.
Perfect.
That's great. Marla, how are you guys handling the home exercise program?
Yeah, so actually within our platform, we do have a chat function. So you can actually, in that session, that's where you can send the home exercise program right through there. So the patient has it before the end of the call. We also have audio and video recording capabilities. So you can actually record the session and send it to the patient, and that's their home exercise program. Like they actually, that elderly patient who might not remember as much, they actually get to see it and they can do it. And we are building that out to where you can stop, start. So you actually just record the exercise, the patient doing the exercise, the next one, and that.
Oh, that's a nice feature. That's a very nice feature.
Nice.
So what you said in that chat, so like if Joe has an exercise, so I'm assuming Joe, maybe you took your YouTube and you put anterior hip protocol, posterior protocol, L5 protocol, blah, blah. And so you got these YouTube, chapters, if you will, on your channel. And so then you could just link to any one of those chapters and they see those. So Marla, you would literally just drop that link in the chat and be like, there you go, click on this, and you could get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And also that email, which I showed you, which is customizable, you can have it in there, so you can also link to.
That's amazing. How are you handling co-pays and co-insurance and deductibles? How are you handling the over-the-counter? And Allie, if you know a little bit about that, I'd like, because, from Meg Billing Solutions, we do billing for clinics all over the country, and we really pride ourselves on trying to stay ahead of that. So maybe Allie, you could share with us how others are doing it as well. But Marla, how are you guys handling that with your system?
That is in development for us right now. We are going to have a payment processing in place where you actually can go ahead and they can pay through the platform for you. And that would be also a cancellation fee if somebody cancels. So
that's nice.
If you wanted, it's up to you. Yeah. Everyone has their own.
Sure.
Just nice option.
But that's in works, and it actually should be out pretty soon. So
Joe, how are you doing it in your office, Joe?
We're actually just collecting credit card over the phone payments. So
you're just doing it over the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And
Allie?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Allie.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Right now, especially during the pandemic, a lot of the insurances are going the way of waiving patient responsibility, and they're actually covering the patient portion. But for all of our clinics, we definitely are suggesting that they collect the same as they would if the front desk was checking the patient in. Make sure you get that payment right away before you see the patient.
I definitely want to ask for clarification on that. So I'm just going to say my 2 cents on it, and then you correct me if I don't get it right. So my understanding is that if you're in one of these particular states where Aetna, Blue Cross, Cigna, United Healthcare, whatever, says we are waiving the copay for our patients during this pandemic. Well, that's between the insurer and the patient. So am I to assume that the provider, being the physical therapy clinic, I'm not waiving copays. The insurer is going to credit you that back because it's still under my agreement, still within my contract that I am bound to collect that $40 copay. I'm bound to collect it from the patient, provide the services, send out the claim. It goes to the insurance company. The insurance company sees that we collected a $40 copay. They in turn refund it back to the patient, and that's how they're meeting their obligation. That's my understanding, but I'm totally up to being wrong. So please tell me how that works.
So the insurers you're sending the claim, not collecting anything from the patient up front, and the insurers actually, when they process the claim, they're covering the patient portion.
So it's showing up in the EOB as
yes. It's showing up in the EOB as the insurance just processing and paying in full.
But how is that being represented in the EOB? How do you guys see, how are you, I'm sorry to drill, I'm so into billing. Like, how do you see that? How do you know that?
When the EOB comes over, it just won't indicate any patient responsibility on there whatsoever.
Oh, okay. So it's reflected in the patient responsibility section. It's not tied to any particular code.
Yeah, not tied to any particular code. Okay. What you'll see is you'll see the payment come over, and then you'll also have your contractual obligation right off to do. But there will be,
go ahead.
There'll be no PR amount, the patient responsibility amount.
So you're actually getting that $40 in payment from the carrier.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, good. I have had such a quandary about understanding that, because I'm like, well, I said my piece. Like, if the insurance company's going to waive it, that's fine. But how is the poor provider going to manage that,
Right.
right? So thank you for that. Is
They're
that
absorbing
understood
it.
by you as well, Marla, the same way?
Yeah, that's my
Okay. I am so glad we got that straightened out. I
Okay, good.
did not know
Good.
how
See, you learn
logistically.
something new every day, even if you're Brian Gallagher.
No,
Folks, you heard it here.
I'm telling you, I do not want to go to bed any day of my life where I didn't say, I didn't learn
That's
anything.
right.
I just,
We are all open to learning.
I am
I
into
love
that.
it. Okay, good. I have a question that was presented. For those of us who are already doing telehealth right now, how frequently do we see a patient? Once a week, twice a week? What is the kind of standard operating procedure for that? Joe or
Yeah,
Marlo?
Yeah, go ahead.
we treat it the same as if the patient's coming in the clinic. It depends on what their
That would be my
diagnosis
answer.
and condition.
Mhm.
Obviously, if they're, more acute, more severe pain, they're going to be 3 times a week. It's a person that's just showing a little bit of deficits, then yeah, maybe we could start with 2 and then reduce it down to 1 if they can demonstrate in between, so same as a clinic.
Absolutely. I would
Absolutely
agree with that answer. Marlo,
agree.
please
Absolutely.
weigh in. Mike, weigh in.
I absolutely would have said the same thing.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I
Okay,
have
good.
another question for you, Marla. We realize that as PTs, everyone on this panel is a physical therapist, and Allie is like president. So we don't she's got more initials than all of us. But all of us physical therapists, we spent, 6-7 years going through PT school, mentally being trained to be there one-on-one with a patient and provide a hands-on physical therapy experience for the patient. And all of a sudden overnight, we're supposed to get into this culture of I'm going to effectively treat my patient through digital media as effective as I know. I'm getting a lot of owners saying I am having a tough time getting my PTs to hop on board the train of telehealth.
Mhm.
They are just digging their heels in going, you can't sell me that I am going to be as effective as a clinician via telehealth as I am when the patient's sitting right here in my clinic. How are you handling that conversation, Marla?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we first came out with telehealth, I mean, we've been trying to tell people to do telehealth for a while now, and we knew the way it would work is if you had telehealth with your provider, right? The person, like, if I just randomly got somebody in Virginia to give me PT telehealth and I never saw them and I don't know them at all, I think that it could work in some ways if it's a consistent person, but it can't be like, that the one you do on, for my cold and I get someone random, right?
Yeah.
So you do want it to be, I would say, with a consistent provider, with somebody who is your plan of care, who's going to progress you. I do think it's like treating a post-op patient for the first time of a new therapist. Sometimes they're not comfortable right away, so there's some training to do. Mike, I don't know if you're coming out with any, sessions for people to learn. I think that would be great. I want to see some telehealth continuing education. I think we're going to see that. And I think if there should be some out there, but I'd say go take a telehealth course. There are definitely things to learn of ways you can evaluate things better, because you're like, I only know my manual muscle testing. How am I going to do that? Well, there's ways to do it, but you got to think and you got to seek it out and learn. I know, Dan Seidler's putting some of those together as well. And Mike, I'd love to see some from you because I know you probably have it all here.
Mike had a great answer for that on the podcast this week about how much of our patient care is actually education based. And
I think, about 4 hours ago, I did a TMJ evaluation, and I can honestly say that it was just as good as what I would have done in the clinic. Was there some part, sure, that I wish I could have put my hand here and there, but it flowed very, very well. And I came to the same conclusion and the same plan of care, whether I was seeing that patient in office or via telehealth. And I think a key is that we can't forget that just because our hands aren't on that patient, that doesn't mean we can't educate the patient and their spouse or friend or someone how to safely perform manual therapy. It can't just be exercise. I'm not just going to exercise someone, but I can't be in the room with them. But I've created about 40 plus videos that I'm sending to every patient, certain ones to each patient. Okay, here's how your significant other can do a gentle cervical distraction. Very safe. Am I going to have them do something very advanced? Absolutely not. But there's so many things, because just when I was in the clinic, I would have a spouse come back, say, hey, Mary, this is really helping your husband. I'm going to show you how to gently and safely do this, but we have to get the video out there so they can watch it and learn it. And then, you know, that's the way you get your hands in that video. And for me, doing telehealth only, that was a must. And being a fellowship trained manual therapist.
Absolutely.
So it's really been effective. You just,
Good.
you know, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you have to be innovative for sure. I would like to hear from you, Joe.
Yeah, going back to what Brian was saying about therapists digging their heels in, what I think, what I truly believe in, it just really comes back to that they're not confident. It's something new to them. They've not built any confidence, and with confidence, you have to have successes. So, and that takes repetition. So the more times that they kind of do this and they see not only their success, but then the patients, that's why we collect a lot of success stories on video or, you know, written, that they see it and then they become more confident. Once you become more confident, you truly tend to love it, because we're all in it just to make the patient better. Doesn't matter what kind of platform we're trying to use. If we can do it, you know, telehealth versus, you know, hands-on, if we firmly believe in it and we're passionate about it, we're going to get the job done. So
Yeah, Joe, I'm sorry, go.
Just real quick, is if you have a therapist that's not confident, have them jump on your telehealth session and they can watch you. You know, that's a great way. That's, like I said, you can have a third party on these sessions too, is you can still have students, you can still have interns, and you can still have your own therapist. If they're not comfortable, let them watch you do it, just like you would when they just joined your clinic. And then they can get to that comfort level.
You know, Marla, Joe makes me proud, because what an executive client he is to say what he just said, because some of the principles that we teach in Meg Academy with our executive clients is just a couple of these, and this is so relevant to telehealth. So for those of you listening right now, consider what I'm about to say. These are just like some of these truisms that we teach our clients, our executive owners, so that they can best work with their staff. And here's one of them. In the absence of information, one will always think the worst. So if there's a clinician who doesn't have the full picture, like Marla's saying, they're not fully hatted, they're not fully trained on it, they're going to dub in bad thoughts and ideas or bad outcomes. Like Mike's got half of the alphabet after his name.
He sure does.
I'm telling you, I
think it's more than half.
I don't even like doing joint lectures with him, because I look like a student and he is like, you know, Gandhi, right? So I don't even know what. But I can tell you, if you just give more information, you fill the vacuum, people become more comfortable. Another truism that we teach in our training is when one comes up against a degree of uncertainty, they will always default back to what they last knew how to do well. Yeah. So what one last knew what to do very well, they'll always gravitate back toward that. You ever try to promote somebody to clinical director and the next thing you know, they're treating a bajillion patients? You're like, dude, you're the clinical director. Why are you not directing these people? Because they're not comfortable in the personnel conflict resolution. They haven't been well hatted in that. And you pushed them too much, too fast out of gradient. So they'll go back to treating patients which they last did really well. And the other thing that Joe said, which is really, really true, it takes the number of times over to build certainty on something, right? When I played soccer and went to Europe, it was because I got a personal coach that made me do the same thing 1,000 times over and says, if you want to go play in Europe, you've got to do this like it's muscle memory. You can never think about it. Same thing here. You've got to be a telehealth patient. Let someone treat you for telehealth. Experience the other side of the screen. Be over there in the barn in Wisconsin, be a patient, lift some cans of milk, and let us talk about your ergonomics and how to properly exercise your back. That's going to give you a whole different respect and perspective of what it's like for the patient to experience you treating them. So those were three big executive concepts, and Joe just rattled them off like it was second nature. That's what handles it.
Yeah, and it's, I think that's what we call mastering a skill, right? I mean, like that's just another skill. It's another tool in our tool belt, and we have to be able to master it. So I appreciate that. You know, I wanted to ask you, Joe, because I know you mentioned one of the things that you do is you do a lot of videography around your clinic. Can you share a little bit more about how that's been useful in terms of like marketing what you do, or, you know, explaining the value of what you do to your public?
Yeah, the biggest misconception is people don't realize what telehealth truly is. It's so new to them, and they can't even think about how we could possibly treat them. Same way, like the therapists are like, well, how am I going to treat them? They're like, well, what are you going to do for me? You can't do anything. So we actually have a videographer that comes one day a week, and we make sure that we do success stories with some of the patients. So we video it. We convert it so that we can put it online. So we put it on our Facebook and our Instagram and send it out to our community so that they can actually see A, what it looks like, and B, what the patient's testimonials are, you know, in different ages. We have, you know, younger people in their 30s to people in their 80s that are giving us testimonials, so we can cover our local demographics. So
that's awesome.
Joe, I have a good point on that. Is we've been telling people that at the end of their telehealth session, press the record button and get a testimonial from that patient. You're on a call with them on a video. We just did an awesome session, and you go and put that, and you got now months of social media that you can put out.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
I love it.
Absolutely.
That little tidbit right there, like is
Done.
just a gem.
You're welcome,
That is a
listeners. Good
gem.
job, Marla and Joe.
Marla just smoked it with that recommendation. I mean, you got a captive
We had a
audience right
mic
on
to
tape.
drop.
Yeah, I'm telling you, or a cow's bottle, whatever it is, one or the other. But that is perfect. I mean, we are big on like give people mass. Give them mass. They need to see it, feel it, touch it. And there they are. They're right there on camera. Just hit record.
I have a quick question for Allie that just came in before we finish with some final closing thoughts, because I feel like we blinked and that hour went by. But Allie, we have a question, and I'm not familiar with this, but she's asking, is CMS reimbursing for telehealth for private practice PT clinics? We heard something different today and are now confused. So Allie, can you clear up some questions on Medicare patients?
Yeah, so they are reimbursing for telehealth at the same rate as an in-person visit. We just billed our claims. It will be 2 weeks tomorrow, so we haven't received the checks and EOBs from them, but when I did check status, they do appear as if they're going to process and pay.
Perfect.
And Allie, I just want to ask, I do believe they are making, it has to be a HIPAA compliant platform to cover it. That's what I had heard, but I don't know if that's changed.
I thought that they waived that for the pandemic. I am not sure though.
I don't think for CMS though. So double check.
Okay.
On that.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
I had heard that CMS actually did require that, but everything's changing every day. So
I think Marla's right, because it goes back to my statement that the HIPAA rules have not been relaxed. The enforcement of those rules have been relaxed. So those rules still apply. So I believe she's 100% right. But you know, obviously we got Allie is the expert. She'll figure that out.
Guys, the long and short of it is be HIPAA compliant.
Yeah,
like,
be HIPAA compliant all the time.
You are absolutely at no risk if you just do it the right way. So like spend a little extra cash. It will be well worth it in the long run.
Totally. Nicole, could you and Mike please remember we had this discussion earlier and we were talking about PT, PTA, if the PT's at home doing telehealth, but the PTA's in the clinic. Could we please have a discussion for our listeners on the compliance and the way the Practice Act is looking at it, the way the payers are looking at it, because it's not always the same thing. And the Practice Act supersedes how you should perform, because they hold your license, right? So could we clear this up for our listeners?
Go ahead, Mike.
Sure. So we had the question of, now that a PTA can now do telehealth according to CMS. The question came up of, does in a private practice setting, we know that a PT has to be on site when a PTA is treating. And so that came up with telehealth. Does a PT have to be on site if a PTA is doing telehealth? So I went to the APTA website the other day, and from what I read, it appeared, at least during this time, during this pandemic time, that the PT did not have to be on site if the PTA was doing telehealth. Now, Brian, that's what we talked about the other day, correct?
That's correct. That's what we talked about. And then Daniel was sending us emails, and let's go on further from there.
Okay. I might have to pull that email up because I've looked at a lot
Go
of
ahead,
emails.
pull that email up, because my understanding of reading the content, and Marla, please chime in if you know different, or if you know similar, you can enforce and make me look good. That would be good. Is that they are saying that you must follow the Practice Act in terms of PT, PTA supervision, meaning as long as that PT is making themselves available for calls, communication, and contact during the time in which the PTA is treating in accordance with the plan of care, you are in compliance with the Practice Act when treating via telehealth. That was what I got from that, but Mike's pulling up the email. Marla, right, wrong?
Yeah, I just know you go by the Practice Act. That's the gold standard.
What a safe answer. What a safe answer.
So basically and I'm going to just read this directly from Danielle, but based on the language from CMS,
Mike's
A
like off the hook.
supervising therapist would not need to be on site in the same location for when a PTA provides treatment to a Med B beneficiary. State practice acts still rule the day, however. So I think that's what you're saying, Brian, is you have to
Yes.
go by what your
Yes.
state practice act says, regardless of what CMS says.
That's right.
And so, but generally speaking, only a student or special case will require on-site direct supervision, which could be accomplished through a remote login during a telehealth treatment, which I think you were alluding to before, Marla, is to have that person kind of, phoning in as well and being part of the telehealth session. So again, as long as the PT is available to answer questions, same as like an on-call like physician would be,
Yes.
you're good to go. So
Yes.
remember,
And
that the
so
rules
we're all
apply to
gonna
PT
default on that. That's our interpretation. That's our understanding. We read it verbatim, but you must default on your practice act. You must own the responsibility yourself of not saying, well, Nicole said blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If you're in Jersey, you're in Nevada, you're in Arizona, all of those things change. It's
Yes.
kind of like the governor of Arizona, I was telling Mike, said, oh, we're gonna, pay for telehealth through commercial carriers, and then commercial carriers are like, well, we're not regulated by the state of Arizona, we're federally regulated. So all of a sudden the governor is saying it's okay and the payers are saying it's not okay. Well, you still have to do your own homework, is my bottom line.
Sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
Exactly. But we tried to give you the most cutting edge information right there, based on what Mike said, based on what Nicole just said. That should give you enough to go on, I'm hoping.
Yes. So in closing, I would love to hear closing thoughts from each of you. So Marla, if you can just get us started, and I want to put up Marla's contact information again, Matthew, if you can, as she's speaking, because I've had a lot of people asking already how to get in touch with you. So, we want to make sure we revisit that again. But in closing, can you just give us a few words of closing thoughts?
In closing, I would say try to make sure technology helps you. It's there for you. And I know we're all in our own comfort zone. Sometimes this is the way how we do everything, but believe me, people are getting much more used to technology through this pandemic. Let it help you, not only for telehealth, but for scheduling appointments, for branching out and paperwork and everything. Make your practice efficient, because we all know we have low margins in PT, but the more efficient we can be, the less time our front desk has to spend 25 minutes on a phone with somebody just collecting their insurance and information, the more they can do higher value tasks, and you guys can be more productive and treat patients better. That's the goal. We want to bring patients to you easily, quickly, as seamless as possible, and you guys, us as PTs, all treat them.
Perfect. That's excellent. Mike?
I would say that the goal is always to do what is best for each patient. We're really here to treat them, to serve them. So really whatever is best for them. So if the patient needs telehealth and that's what's best for them, then our staff needs to understand that. And don't worry about perfection with technology. If you've ever seen my Facebook Lives, I'm as far away from perfection as you could possibly be. But you got to get out there and just do it, because this is what the way of the world is. So don't expect perfection, and do what's best for each patient.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Joe?
I got to unmute. There we go. Two things. One thing, I think we can really use Marla with her platform. I just thought of it, actually. We actually had a call a couple weeks back from a professor from a program in Arizona somewhere, and they wanted, because they saw that we were doing higher volume per week in telehealth, and they're like, we have students that want to do rotations, and they can't right now. Would you be willing to take a rotation? And we thought, we're looking into it, we're going to actually take them on, but this is a great way, like us as business owners before pandemic, having a hard time getting, physical therapists. Now we could take advantage of this platform.
Yes.
Have them remotely come in, show them how to do it, and they can kind of still do rotations with us, even though it's a heavy, telemarketing or telehealth platform. So I think that's really cool. One thing, and then my second thing is a little bit of humor that I wanted to bring to finish.
Yes, I love humor.
So we had we approached a patient as far as telehealth, and he was like, telehealth, what is this? I don't even know what this is. And we explained, and he's like, oh, okay, so you're gonna coach me through my exercise, this and that. Great. So tomorrow is my house cleaning company going to call me and tell me how to vacuum my house. I have to pay for that service.
That's right. Pick up the pledge.
I'm like, I had nothing to say.
That's a good one.
That's good. That's
I love
good.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
man.
I want to do like a take on, what is your take on telehealth? We should have like a meme off where, you know, you have to kind of post on social media your interpretation of telehealth. I like that. Kind of falls in line with that.
That
That's
is
great.
funny.
Okay, Brian, wrap us up. Bring us home here.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. First, I got to just comment on Joe's humor there with his patient. You know, I saw
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld do a stand-up, and Jerry Seinfeld says, once you're over the age of 65 or 70, you have no filter, and you can say anything you want and totally get away with it.
That's right.
So down here in Florida, I see it all the time. I hear people say stuff, and I go, what did they just say that? And it's like totally okay in Florida. So Joe, I get it 100%. So my parting words with everybody who are watching, part of the audience here, is that of immense appreciation. Mike, Joe, Marla, Nicole, giving of all of your time, your experience. There's a ton of other things you guys could be doing, and you're here now giving all of this information to help others. So I just want to part with, it is more relevant now than ever before for all of us to hold tight those professional relationships that you know, like, and trust. Because everyone today is reaching for people who they know, like, and trust. Daniel Hirsch, Daniel Seidler, Marla, Joe, Mike, and all the people that Nicole handpicks to come on here as panelists. And we keep it light and we make fun. And Nicole lives in Madison. She doesn't even have a barn. She has a dog. I mean, it's as far as it goes. But we want to make it entertaining and fun. And we like to throw it out there and give you real life examples. And we hope that we're doing our part to exceed your expectations by asking real life questions that we get from the hundreds of owners that we've been working with for going all the way back to 2006. We've been doing startups since 2010. We've never had a startup fail. We will always be there for you. So I just want to part with, if you feel that, it's because that's what we're going for. And I hope you pass that along to others around you too. Professional relationships are more meaningful now than ever before. And please don't ever lose that. I think that's the most important message to take away from anything that we do here at Meg Business.
Well said, Brian. And on that note, I don't think there's anything else I can say to make this session any better. I really, really appreciate all of your times. You are all wonderful with great information. So thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Bye.